So after a long process, very excited to finally have this here in hand. This is an American Mile, my first photo book. It's done, it's printed, it exists, and it's just really cool to finally see this thing in real life. So want to start this video just by saying to anyone who backed this book or pre-ordered it, thank you again. You know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support and helping bring this to life. And also, you know, thank you for your patience throughout this process. This obviously took longer than we anticipated. We ran into some personal things, some technical things, just regardless, for me, a lot of lessons learned, some things I'll take away for the next book that'll definitely speed up the process. And often, you know, that's what it's all about with these creative pursuits, what you learn along the way and what you can apply next time. So the good news is that the books have started shipping. I know some people in Europe have gotten theirs, so they all should be in hand in the very near future. But going back to these lessons, you know, as I look at this book and kind of reflect on the process, not only like the book itself, but also the entire project, there's some like few important takeaways that come to mind. I wanted to make this to share the announcement, but also to talk about these. Hopefully it gives you something to think about that you can apply to your own process. Okay, so the first one is that a photo project can find you. You know, I talk often on this channel about the importance of photo projects and like finding some sort of subject or direction or framework to work under that can really kind of guide your image making. And I still think this is a really important thing, but it can be tough at times to figure out what that is, or to know where to look, or to find something that interests you. And it can be easy to try and force that as well. And when I think back to an American Mile and how this came to be, you know, this was born out of like a year-long period of like pure curiosity and experimentation. So leading up to this work, I'd spent the previous 10 years doing like traditional landscape photography. And the last 2 years of that, I was really struggling and feeling unfulfilled, to the point of where there were a couple times where I actually considered quitting. I thought it might just not be for me anymore. And it wasn't until I made some pretty big changes, you know, during a year-long travel trip through the States, deciding to get back into film, and just for whatever reason, telling myself that I was just going to go out and purely make work for myself again and have fun. And I spent about 6 months or a year during that trip making images and just like photographing whatever interested me, and just really, truly enjoying photography again. And that was all that mattered. You know, I wasn't worrying like, are people going to like this? What's it going to be? What am I going to call it? Should I make a book? What should it be? Like, I had zero cares, zero expectations. I was just purely having fun and enjoying what I was making. And after doing that for about a year, then I got to a point where I kind of stepped back a little bit and I started thinking, okay, maybe there is something here long term. And then I spent the next 4-ish years making trips back. And that's when I kind of started to bring in structure, giving it a name, clarity, finding more direction, and kind of building off of that. But I wanted to mention this one first because I think it's so important. You know, curiosity, intuition, playing, experimentation, all of these things that are so like plentiful at the start of our photography careers where we don't really know anything. That stuff is easy to lose as you progress and as you kind of, you know, place more expectations on yourself. So if you're struggling to find focus, if you're struggling with your photography, maybe you need to just have a period of time where you let go, just go and make work and have fun with it. And then take these little breaks, analyze where you're at, and see if anything's there. For me, at least, that has been one of the best decisions that I've made with my photography career. So number 2 is that images can often be stronger as a whole. And one of the favorite parts of putting this book together for me was bringing together all the work, selecting the images, and then sequencing and pairing and seeing how it kind of came to life. And Noah from Subjectively Objective, you know, he was instrumental in this process. I learned so much from him. But one of the really fascinating things is we ended up using some images in the book that if I were doing this by myself, you know, with my lack of experience, I probably wouldn't have selected at first, only because I probably would have thought I'll just go for like the loudest, you know, most well-received photographs that I've made over the years, forgetting that, you know, a project needs flow, it needs variety. When you're sequencing and pairing, you need all sorts of different images, not just like this greatest hits collection. So one of my favorite pairings here in the book is this one. And these are two images that I obviously like, but seeing them together like this, I just fell in love with this pair right away, and I knew I absolutely wanted this in here. I think these were in the very first sequencing draft that we did, and I just love how the palette's similar with the green on the tarp and the reflection in the windows and just the simplicity of it all. And then how this ties in, obviously, as you're flipping through the book. So I think this is really important to keep in mind, not only when you're putting a book together, but it can also change the way you view your surroundings when you're making work for a project. Again, just not always looking for like the most dramatic or most apparent things out there, looking for variety. It can really shape the way you view your surroundings. So number 3 is, when possible, do things once. One of the things that ended up taking longer than anticipated was file prep. And as I mentioned, the first year of making the work for An American Mile, I was on the road, I was getting back into film. I was sending my film out to different labs. I was using different scanners, getting different resolutions back. And then when I set up an office at home, I went through a few different methods of scanning and whatnot. So not that the images were bad quality, it's just that there was this varying consistency between all of them as I kind of shifted my process. So we ended up making the decision to rescan, I think 90 out of 101 of the images, just to like get the best quality possible and bring the best consistency to them all. And it's a decision that I'm incredibly happy we made. I love how everything turned out. But obviously this took time, rescanning, editing, dust removal, doing revisions. So it really kind of reminded me and hammered home this lesson of, if you're shooting film, try and do it once. If you're in the right circumstances, scan at the highest quality possible, do your edits, do your dust removal, and then have this like master file list that's nice and organized. And when you go to print a book or physical prints or whatever it is, you have these files that you can pull from. It'll save you a lot of time. Okay, and I'm going to sneak in a little bonus one here, number 4, and this is don't do it alone. So obviously I worked with a publisher with this book. I know that not everyone would be working with a publisher. Maybe you want to self-publish, whatever the reasons are. I still think if you can, try and find someone to help you with the process, even just someone you can ask questions. If it's your first book, I learned that there's so many little details that go into making a book that you can obviously figure out on your own, but having someone who can kind of help guide you, I think will ease the process a lot. And even, working with Noah, just like having someone who knew kind of where to go to, which manufacturers for different cloth samples and colors and foil samples and things like what shape do you want the binding to be and the color of the fabric here where everything's bound together. Just like these little tiny things that I would have never thought of. So if you're working with a publisher, obviously that can be great. But if not, like, email someone, reach out to someone if you know someone who's done books before. Even if you don't, shoot me an email. Not that I know everything at all, but it can just be a huge help. And I'm even thinking of maybe doing a video in the future, partner up with Subjectively Objective, just to like make a laundry list of things to keep in mind if you are setting out to make your own book, just to hopefully help ease the process a bit. Okay, so those are a few of what I would consider like the most important takeaways, some things that come to mind right away. And I hope that those kind of give you something to think about, help you with your own process. But overall, couldn't be happier with how this turned out. Can't wait for you to get your hands on it. If you pre-ordered or backed the project, you should have your copies very soon. Maybe you have them by the time you're watching this. And if you're interested in picking a copy up, we do have some extras. I'll put a link to Subjectively Objective's website below, so you can check it out, learn more about it. But other than that, just want to say thank you for watching. Leave questions below if you have any about the bookmaking process. Try my best to answer them or find someone who can. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you soon.